From the Yes Have Some Network, recorded at the YHS Satellite Studios in Valdosta, Georgia and Grapevine, Texas, it's YHS on Monster Island, Episode 17, It Takes Two to
Matango!
You have your fear, which might become reality. And you have Godzilla, which is reality.
I'm sick of Godzilla! Wake up, everyone!
There are two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla.
We're safe here. No human being can understand that. The monsters on Monster Island can understand it.
Whether he returns or not, or is never again seen by human eyes, the things he has taught us remain.
Hey everybody, welcome back. YHS on Monster Island. Listen, first of all, I feel like I need to apologize a little bit, Jay, before we get into this, because
Okay.
I feel like since we started, we have not been on any kind of real schedule. We try to do every 2 weeks here, but sometimes there are, surprise trips to New York Comic Con. So I'm sorry for having to push this a week. Jay, how are you?
I'm doing good. I think that is a good enough excuse, especially for those that follow you guys on YHS, Yes Have Some, and Toy Anxiety, and all the other great properties here. They know why you were there. They know what you guys did there. And all I got to say is I got to be careful what I ask you in our What Did You Watch Recently segment. So I'll make sure to be quiet there. But you know what?
You can say I saw it. I just can't talk about it.
Very true. But, at the end of the day, we're here and we're recording YHS on Monster Island, and we're doing a really cool episode because it's October. We're going to go maybe a little less kaiju, a little bit more horror, and who better to talk to about horror with than the hallowed harbinger of horror. But also, did you know he's the shriek-inducing shroom of doom, the maniacal mycelium of the macabre, and the most frightening fungus among us? Because when it comes to the horror genre, he's a pretty smart fella. But today he's going to showcase his mastery of mushrooms from shiitake to portobello. He is the winner of last year's International Yacht Race, Mr. Jacob Walsh.
Thank you, Jay. That was beautiful as always. And Jay went ahead and gave it away here. We're going to talk about Matango tonight.
Yeah, hey, we are. We're going to talk, and you're going to get to talk about fun guy with a bunch of fun guys.
All right, cool.
I'm getting them all out now, man. I'm getting them all out now.
I like it. We'll do it. We'll do all throughout the show as many. We're going to have, whenever we send this over to Craig for posting, I'm going to make him put a little, like a ding in the corner for every
the mushroom
pun. Yeah.
I love it. Now I'm excited to talk about this one because, and the reason why, I was super pumped. It wasn't the thematic relevance because of October, and this being more, like I said, more of a horror, or we'll talk about kind of what genre really it might fit in. But because you are an expert on kaiju and the films of Toho and all of this stuff, but you're also equally, if not more, just knowledgeable in the world of horror and psychological thrillers and anything of that nature, which I am not. Yeah. So I wanted to get your take, because to me, I'm still like it's an untrained viewer on how to take this and kind of place it historically. I can only kind of fit it in the buckets that I carry, and none of them are really in that realm. So I'm excited to hear your take on it, what you think the good things were, the bad things were, et cetera. So I'm pumped as a fan on this one, just to hear what you have to say about this film that I've seen a handful of times and really dig.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to get into it, and we will.
Yeah, we will.
We will, but we're going to talk about, I feel like, I don't know if you've seen any other movies here, and I'll ask you, but like all the movies I watched are for this episode and for next episode.
Yeah,
so I don't want to spoil next episode yet. So you don't have anything else that you watch?
I don't, just like I said, you've nailed it. Like I have, I've watched the shows that we're going to discuss in the next episode, which will also be a really interesting conversation. Let's just say,
for sure,
that one will be a fun one. But we'll save that until 2 weeks from now.
Cool. Well, yeah, that I think this is the first time that neither one of us had movies to talk about
I think it's okay because I do think we'll have a lot to talk about with this film, but also I have a feeling we picked up a few things too. We might have some toys you want to talk about, and then there's a little bit of news. So I think we could make do without having to talk about other movies.
What'd you buy? I know you bought some stuff.
I did. Yeah, I bought I wouldn't say it ranked up with last time we talked, but I bought some cool stuff, man. I actually was kind of excited for this haul. I couldn't remember what I bought until I was like kind of gathering it up so I can easily grab it. And I was like, oh, wow, about more than I thought. The one thing I got that I can't show you because it's up there next to my gigantic X Plus is I did get the X Plus, the favorite sculptors line, the Real Masters collection. The 30 centimeter 1962 Godzilla from X Plus. So that's the one that's made out of the resin as opposed to like the harder vinyl. So it's a beautiful, it's way more detailed just because you can do that with resin. It's heavy. So I'm not going to bring it down. It comes with a cool base and everything, but it has a light up feature. It was the Rick exclusive, but how do you talk about X Plus? It's like, they're all good.
They're all great.
And if you're listening to this, they're good.
Yeah. I was going to say that's a beautiful figure, but I've said that for every X Plus we've talked about. It's a good looking figure. Yeah.
But I got a couple of things. I went more kind of in the Sofubi, the Sofubi route this week. So I got some really cool stuff. First one I know you will like, and I don't think I've told you that I got these, but I got these from a listener, a friend of mine, a guy that is super knowledgeable about kaiju. And if something happens where you fired me, you should interview him to take my spot. It's Mr. Ryan Wilhelm out here in North Texas. And he gave me a screaming deal on M1, 1997. I don't know why it took so long to make these. Beautiful, iconic Shobajin, the Shobajin, and with the Mothra, the baby Mothra larvas here.
Whoa.
So I love these. M1 obviously does the Haru Nakajima, the Miss Namakawa. But I needed these two lovely Shobajin ladies here. These are beautifully painted and sculpted. Almost like you kind of have to have them on the shelf there. And they come with these little Mothra larvae, which are like a take on the old Bullmark sculpt. So these are cool. Comes with those, and I will gladly have these on the shelf next to my Miss Namakawa and her Haru Nakajima.
I have said this before, but I always feel like there's not enough human figures or humanoid figures. There should be plenty more of that kind of stuff.
100%. I mean, there's so many cool characters to do that. I know, and there is a simian one for the people from Black Hole Planet 3, and then there's a controller of Planet X that I got to get. But other than that, like you're right, there's just not a ton. How is there not a Dr. Serizawa Sofubi that's like readily available? I don't know. Maybe Harada's likeness, he's like his estate's like no or something. I don't know. The other one I got, which is actually the first.
I feel like you can get away with that with a Sofubi though.
I think you probably can.
The features would just be weird.
Just generic, Japanese eye patch man.
Just give him an eye patch.
Give him an eye patch. So the other thing I got was kind of cool because it's an M1 as well, 2006 Megalon. And there's one that's all black, like unpainted. And I normally, I don't get a lot of the unpainted ones because I'm not artistic. I don't paint them. But I saw one that was actually a custom paint job on that item for a really good price. And I was like, it's really good. And this is the first one I have that's like a customized paint job. Check this guy out. Look at that. Look how cool that is. The black and purple.
That purple looks so good, especially with the yellow on the wings.
Yeah, I love this guy. It's the M1 sculpt, and it's a really cool piece. And you can tell, I mean, it's the black vinyl, and they did a wonderful job painting it. And I think, like you said, the gold eyes and wings and accents, and then the silver claws like totally stand out. It's a cool piece. And like I said, I don't do a lot of the custom paint jobs, but I saw this and I was like, hey man, for $40, I'm going to buy this. So I did. Yeah.
That's a great price.
Yeah. So,
heck yeah, dude.
Any cool Titanosaurus that I see, I got to get right. And so this one is cool. Tangled up in a wire here. So this guy is a Superfest exclusive, I believe 2004. And I love this sculpt. I mean, it's Marmot's Titanosaurus is great. It has a lot of the texture and the bumps here on the vinyl. But the cool thing about Marmot is they did some variations that were closed tail and some that were open with the fin. So this is one with the closed tail, but this is a cool, 9.5-inch figure, really cool. And it goes with my other 8 or 9 Titanosaurus Sofubis that I have. So I'll do that. And speaking of kaiju that I love. I'll just rapid fire this. This might be, I bought it knowing I would like it. I didn't think I realized how much I would like it. This is becoming one of my favorite pieces I own. And this is the 98 Marmot from Vinyl Paradise, this Marmot Angrist. Look at this guy. He's like this ruddy brown with a little bit of metallic there. And he is gigantic and goofy looking and huge. I mean, it is like just a massive piece of soft vinyl here. So I love this guy, but it's a 98 Marmot here.
I like the sculpt on that. I like how like wide his grin is. You know what I mean? He really looks like he's grinning. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really anthropomorphized and morphized. I don't know, whatever it is. He looks very human in this, but really cool stuff. And then I just got one more, which, well, I guess I got two more. One, we talked about Super 7 and all the reaction figures. I did get the second reaction figure. I did buy it. It was one of those kind of fear of missing out. I did, yeah.
Me and Craig were talking about it over the weekend, and I was like, yeah, I'm not buying that thing. And I was like, and I don't think Jay liked it either. Oh. And then he was like, I bet Jay bought it.
Yeah, I bought it. I don't like it though. Like I don't like it is. I mean, it obviously we know it's the Mattel Shogun Godzilla done as the Aurora sculpts or model kits. He looks like he's wearing pajamas. Like he looks like he's wearing a onesie. I hope that the reactions aren't just takes on the Shogun sculpt. I hope they do something different because not impressed. I got it. I mean, I'm just glad he doesn't take up a lot of space. Otherwise he'd be gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then my final thing is probably my favorite piece. And it's a Marasan, and I believe it's 03, and it's a 2-pack. It's a double from 1955 from Godzilla Raids Again, Gojira no Gakushu, Gigantus the Fire Monster, whatever you want to say. These beautiful Godzilla and Anguirus there. So you have Godzilla. That came in like a 2-pack. They're this cool kind of bluey gray, kind of almost like an icy tone with this electric blue here accents. These are beautiful figures. They actually look really good in person, paired together. And it's the 55 Anguirus design, which you don't see a lot of. It's either the god awful Final Wars or it's the 68 kind of the classic Showa era, Destroy All Monsters one that was obviously used in the 70s as well. But this is the 55, and you just don't see a ton of the 55. And so I love this. And it just pairs nicely with the 55 Godzilla suit here with these like menacing red eyes. But I love this. And that was my big one. And then I guess I had one more non-toy. If you look over here, I got, because people that might know me, I used to work at Dr. Pepper, Keurig Dr. Pepper headquarters, and I got one of the bumper stickers from 1985 that Dr. Pepper did when Godzilla 1985 was coming out. They had a promotion, and this is the bumper sticker that I got framed and put back here. So it'll be back here for future YHS on Monster Islands. But that was one of my other pickups, though non-toy related. So very heavy on the soft vinyl.
Dude.
But I loved it. It was a lot of good kind of like solid pieces, no like main events, but like solid 2 weeks here.
There's a lot of good stuff, man. I like all that weird promotional stuff. That Dr. Pepper piece is really cool. That's some of my favorite stuff to collect is the weird promo stuff. And that 55 Godzilla there, that's a design, that's a suit that looks better as a toy than like I've never liked that suit very much, but that in figure form, it looks great.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really cool way to put it. I've never thought of it that way, but you're right. It looks because I always felt like not only and I will defend to some degree Godzilla Raids Again. It's still in the bottom half of my favorite movies. I think there's some good moments in there, but it's a much lesser film than obviously 54. Yeah. And the suit also takes a step back, and it's like, whoa. I mean, I almost wish like it's a year after you'd think that they would have been improved, but they made some creative choices that didn't necessarily work. But you're right. And it's also kind of like the most forgotten suit of any of the Godzilla suits. Like nobody ever references 55.
I feel like that movie's one of the most forgotten movies of the whole. It's like 100%. I feel like I never hear anybody talk about that movie.
Yeah, it was hard to find when I was younger too. Like they had like the one, I don't know if it was Good Times or he released the one, but I will always defend it because I do think Hiroshi Koizumi, who we'll talk about today, actually does a pretty good job in that as the lead. And then the character of Kobayashi, I forget the actor's name, but the actor that played Kobayashi in Raids Again, his son was Goro in Godzilla versus Megalon, and obviously he was in Godzilla versus King Ghidorah and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But Kobayashi, I think, is actually one of the unsung great human characters in all of Godzilla, and he was in Godzilla Raids Again. He was the kind of the jokester that that sacrificed himself at the end.
Yeah,
I really think he's an underrated character. So there's some moments in there, but it's not the best film in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
What'd you get, man?
Jay, that's a good haul, man. I only got one kaiju related thing here, but I did. So over the weekend, I was in New York. I was at New York Comic Con, and there were some Godzilla stuff at Comic Con, and I was just like trying not to, buy too much, spend too much money. The art is what would have killed me. I didn't bring like a poster tube or any way to get art home. And if I would have, it literally would have destroyed me because
you didn't steal those XM Studios, the 2-foot tall space Godzilla that they had there or anything.
Hey, I didn't even see those, Jay. I was like, dude, I was there and I saw them online and I was like, oh my God, I got to find these. And I was only at the actual convention for one day, and it was a very hectic day. And we had, right in the middle of the day, we had we went to the Chucky premiere, and then the Ghostbusters panel was not long after that, and we spent a lot of time just making sure we were going to be close in line. So we did one room, a big room. I don't know how many rooms are in there. We did like an art room. We went into the autograph place, but I looked for those things and I did not see them. And we just didn't have time to go into the like showroom, which is where I think they were. Yeah. I really wanted to see that Space Godzilla though, man.
Hey, you can own it for a cool $1,200. You can own it.
Is that it?
I think so.
That ain't so bad. But there was a lot of stuff. We also went to Toy Tokyo over the weekend, which is a fun place. They don't have the Godzilla outside anymore.
They don't.
The wooden Godzilla that's out there. Yeah. He's gone. So I was a little bummed. But they had some cool stuff. But still, there was nothing in there that was like a need for me. I didn't buy anything. There was some cool stuff. Didn't pick anything up. The one thing I picked up, I got from the My Plastic Heart booth, which those are the guys that I've been picking up the like cute, Mothra in a Godzilla suit, that kind of stuff. So I picked up this Nagora figure.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's kind of like a made up, it's a cat kaiju. And this was their New York Comic Con exclusive figure. They put out tons of these. So I've been, since I started following My Plastic Heart, I see these everywhere. These are made by, who makes these? Kanatsuya makes these.
Okay. I don't know.
And if you look at their Instagram, it's just like a million of these, same sculpt, just all different, colorways. There's like clear ones. There's some like really beautiful ones. And I actually like pre-ordered, they have like a blind box set of these coming, and I think it's 8 different ones. And I went ahead and bought like all of them, so I know I'll have them all. Yeah. But I was just like, this thing's cute. They had a Comic-Con exclusive. It wasn't sold out. So I was like, I'm going to buy this fucking thing, man. Yeah. I bought it. And I guess I collect these now because today they dropped a new one.
Nice.
And it was sold out. It was like a Mondo drop, Jay. It's sold out in 1 minute, but I got it. And it's like a Halloween variant. It looks like a pumpkin, he's got like it's just another, it's not Godzilla, related. It's a fake made up kaiju, but I just look how cute. Can you imagine a shelf of this, Jay?
Yeah. Well, I would say even your existing kind of cute kaiju collection, like it fits right really in well. Yeah.
This is the card.
Look at that header card.
They had a couple of these at Toy Tokyo, like older ones. Yeah. And I mean, they were out of my price range. I'm not looking to be spending like hundreds. This was $100, but just $100. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking to be spending like hundreds on some of these older ones. Like, but just like anything, these seem to have a big audience, and
for sure,
it sold out so quick today. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I happened to be like right there when they went for sale, but I'm happy with this guy. I was like a little worried about bringing him back in my luggage because of his two tails, but yeah,
he survived.
I like this guy. He's cute.
One tough kaiju. Yeah, you know, the custom designer vinyl. It's such a huge market. I mean, honestly, like $100 for something that's of substance and size. I think like that's really good. I mean, you go to some of these custom vinyl shows and stuff, and custom toy shows, designer toy shows. I mean, the little minis and stuff for $300-$400 sometimes because they're only making 10, and it's all about the aesthetic and the art, and it's not your known properties. They're all custom or not all, but most of them are custom figures. That's just kind of the going right.
They had some more of these for sale that were, maybe a couple inches smaller, that were all custom hand painted one of ones. Yeah. Those were like, don't even look at them. Those were like, I don't even care. Now when I was looking at this, this company online today, I did notice that a while back, they put out a series of this guy that was all Ultraman inspired. So it was like 6 Ultraman kaiju, but they all had the cat head.
I like it.
So I was like, those are cool. Yeah. So, maybe they'll do more stuff like that. That's all I got.
Very cool. Hey, before we hop off of toys, I want to say, like, if you are listening and you do live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, I have to do one quick plug here. I'm going to be at Nishi Fest, a one-day Asian pop culture convention held at the eSports Stadium with Toku Toy Town. I'm going to be there selling the best in Japanese collectibles, kaiju collectibles, tokusatsu toys. So if you're going to Nishi Fest, which is a huge, huge event, I mean, they have everything from like a food truck night market to a car show to gaming tournaments and everything. Please stop by and say hi and check out what we got at Toku Toy Town. But it's going to be a lot of really cool stuff there. Like some of the legends of cosplay are going to be there, like Yaya Han and stuff, and it's going to be really, really cool. And hey, they needed somebody there to sell some kaiju collectibles, and so I was like, let me be that guy. So
you're the man.
October 30th.
You're the man to sell those kaiju. That's going to be fun, dude. That's going to be cool. I hope you enjoy that.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Yeah, dude.
Oh boy, should we do this?
I don't think there's any news that we need to talk about. I mean,
I don't think there is either. The only thing that I want to maybe mention, I haven't watched this yet, but I don't know if you know about it, but somebody did like a fan. It's like a CGI short film. And it's like Godzilla versus Gamera.
No, I haven't.
I've been seeing a lot of people post about it. There's like a teaser out, and it looks well done. And I believe it's out for viewing now. I have not watched it yet. If it is,
that's amazing.
I can't. But it's out there.
On your last YHS Ask YHS Anything thing, I think one of the fans asked you guys what your dream mashup would be, and I was waiting for Gamera and Godzilla. I mean, like, can we not put those two?
I didn't want it, man, because I always get nervous with mashups that are like two guys that I like. I was like, I don't want to see them unless I know they're good. They're teaming up. I don't want to see it. It just makes me nervous.
I don't even know who they would fight.
Dude, they would fight. They would fight Gaios and they would fight a hybrid Ghidorah Gaios. I don't know.
That would work. I guess there is one bit of news that we should probably talk about because it does segue nicely into our topic today.
Okay.
X Plus, they announced, this was about a week or so ago now, that they're launching that new line of more affordable tagged figures called Toho Maniacs. And it's the Matango mushroom that's going to be the first character in this line. And like I said, they're going to be back in that more of that kind of $50 to $60 range.
Weird first choice.
It is, it's kind of like a little bit like Hedera and a little bit like Megalon, whereas like there's a contingent of fans that just buy that character and buy those designs. Especially the Mamie Matangos, like those that go like hotcakes. I just think that's an aesthetic. Like you have a lot of people that just like Japanese cinema will buy those. And then of course, kaiju, because it's adjacent to this film and stuff. And But it is an interesting one, but they're launching with that. But maybe it's just an easy sculpt to do and they can make a lot of profit on it.
Are you thinking about picking it up?
Right now you have to go through a proxy service because it's only going to be in certain stores. It's not like, going to be something that they
you can't like get it on Awesome Collector or something.
Not right now.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I haven't checked. And I don't want to do the episode here, but if anybody here would have it, probably is those guys. I might look if one pops up on auction for just a little bit of a markup. Maybe I get it. But I've never collected Matango as in any form, and you'll see it's not necessarily because of my views on the movie. It's something that like I try to stay as strictly kaiju as possible.
Yeah. It doesn't really fit in with your, I guess
it wouldn't. If somebody said, "Hey, here's one for $25," I'm like, I'll take it. But yeah, it's an interesting choice.
Well, I looked around after I watched the movie, and I looked around on eBay, and I was like, okay, these are very expensive. I would think about getting that export. I enjoyed the movie. I would love to have a couple like misshapen mushrooms around the house, I think.
I love it, man. And hey, and they're vegan. So
exactly. That's why I really like the movie. That's the underlying message of the whole film, to be honest.
I know, right? Don't eat meat. Or definitely don't eat turtle eggs. But so this is, and remind me, is this the first time that you've seen this movie?
Yeah. I've never
Awesome.
So as soon as I started reading G-Fan, I've always seen, things about it. Mm-hmm. As soon as you start kind of researching, Godzilla movies, you see all kinds of ads for it. So I've always been aware of it. And it's just one of those movies that's always just kind of slipped by. It's one where I'll see something and I'll make a note and I'll be like, I need to watch this because I bet I'll love it. Yeah. And I just forget, or you don't really just, it's not out there. I've never seen it on, on DVD or anything like that. So it's like, I just have always forgotten. So you've really been like pushing me to watch it. Yeah. And what is it? It's on HBO, right? It's on HBO.
I know it's on Prime, right?
Prime,
or is it an HBO? One of those.
I think it was on HBO for a little bit. Now it's on Prime. The American dub is on Prime. So yeah, it was perfect time to watch it. So yeah, this is my first time.
Nice. And I asked because like I didn't watch it like as a young kid either, just because even though I saw it in G-Fan, but because over here I always saw it as Attack of the Mushroom People, and that to me didn't like, I wasn't like, oh, okay, that'll be cool. It
sounds dumb, right?
It sounds dumb, and it's like kind of the body horror, and it's a little bit of like those like deformed humans type show, which hey, Toho did those. You had the Human Vapor, you had H-Man, all that type of stuff. So it just did not appeal to me as a kaiju first person. But then as you read it, and I think as I got older and gained appreciation for Honda as a director, Akira Kubo as an actor, Hiroshi Koizumi as an actor, like that's when I was like, I should probably watch this, even though it's not a genre that I would get into. It's probably not, at least by the synopsis, something that I'd be like, I want to watch that. And I'm glad I did, because I've watched it, many times since then. And it's interesting, but the American International, the AIP title of Attack of the Mushrooms does it no favors.
It's not a great title, but it is very cool and interesting to see, to kind of grow up watching a group of actors and director do a lot of these movies that you like that are all very similar. And then to be like, oh, here's something else that they all did together, but is like nothing like Godzilla,
Yeah. No, it really is. And now have you read, or you should read the short story that this is like based off of?
The Voice in the Night.
Yeah. You're familiar with it?
I read it today.
Oh, you did? It's good, right?
I was going to bring it up. I read it today. I had some notes because I was just doing a little research about the movie to see if there was anything else. And I was kind of shocked to see that it was based on a true story. And I saw that it's been like adapted a couple other, a few times it's been adapted, but, I found a version of it on YouTube. It's like 30 minutes. You can just listen to it. And yeah, dude, I think I liked the movie better. I think the movie is a little more horrifying and has a scarier ending than the book does. Yeah. Because, this just like Salem I movie situation more horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I my thing is like I think that you can really feel the dated nature of the story. I mean, it's very 1907 or whenever
It's
it was
old,
written.
yeah.
Yeah, and Matango I think does a lot to kind of extrapolate it out and make it a more, there's more meat on the bone, so to speak. And whatnot. But I'm glad you read it. I mean, like I said, it's cool to understand that was the starting point. But what's really neat is that, so you take that as kind of the foundation, right? And then Honda apparently during this time, there was a real article that he saw like Tokyo about a bunch of rich kids that stole their dad's yacht and had to be rescued out at sea. And he kind of married the two together.
You just put them together. There you go. Put them
together. Yeah. And so I thought that was really cool to know that there's like a little bit of, both this literary core, but also kind of at the time, this current event thing that happened to them in that local region and married them together. And we get Matango.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I guess should we kind of give like a general plot here for people who maybe have not?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Do you want to do it? I mean, you're
sure. I'll go through. Pretty simple. It's simple, and I think that's one of the things that completely like best for the. When I read the story today, the story raises a couple questions that it never answers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but there's a thing in the book about them finding a place of sand where the mushrooms are not growing. And that's where they talk about how weird it is. And it's like, oh, it looked like sand, but it wasn't really sand. But then they never come back to it.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what was that? It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
One of the things that Honda does is like just trims all that stupid shit. And it's just straight up. This is a story about a group of people who become shipwrecked. They're running out of food. They're trying to find food. They quickly all start to like become like weary of each other. And it reminded me a lot of The Thing because there's like nobody trusts anybody. Yeah. They're seeing people like all of a sudden you got somebody eating these mushrooms and they're like, whoa, maybe we don't eat that, and then they start turning into mushroom people. And that's just what happens. Like in the end, there's all these mushroom people on the island and you're like, oh, I guess anybody who, crashes on this island, there's a certain kind of mushroom. You're like drawn into eating it. And it's like, you can't help but eat it. And it tastes really good and you want to eat it, but it turns you into a mushroom person. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is the power of this story. Why I like it is because the story, the narrative, the plot points are very straightforward, easy to follow. But what I feel like the reason why I'm really drawn to this story, like they're drawn to the mushrooms, is two things. I think it's beautifully acted and directed, and we'll talk about that later. But also, I think its strongest thing is it ends with a big, just thematic, like question, this question of humanity, and whether you take the theme of the show to be, the old guard of Japan fighting against the westernization of the country, whether you take it as like if you get a toxic group mind, does it destroy the rights of an individual or the individuality? Like however you take it, there's that big hook at the end that is supported by this beautiful, simple story. And you're sitting there thinking, what would I have done in Mirai's place? And when a movie does that, when you come out of there being like, I have to question what I would do if I was put in that scenario, especially a sci-fi horror, psychological, whatever movie, whatever genre this thing is. I think that is powerful. And I think that end scene, which we'll actually can talk about in a bit, because it's really the only thing different between the Japanese and the American versions, that end scene in the psychiatric ward, I think is one of the best scenes that Toho ever produced. And it almost carries the entire movie. But I think if the story is convoluted and there's too much to like kind of grasp and figure out, then it's less impactful at the end. It just is kind of like, but you're right. It's very straightforward. You know what's happening. You see this de-evolution of this group. It's, very Lord of the Flies, very The Thing. Like, it's crazy. And then at the end, it's like, what would you have done if you were Akira Kubo's character? So it's very interesting.
I would have ate the mushrooms. I think I think that's the best thing about it, because I feel like it's really easy for horror movies to get kind of caught up in, either tropes or try to add too many twists to the story, or just like there's so many horror movies that just become super convoluted. And this reminded me almost of this kind of gave me the feeling that I get like when I watched Alien, like the original Alien. It's like it's kind of the same story, and
it really is. That's a great call.
Yeah, Alien, and it reminded me a lot of some of the old, like Twilight Zone episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Twilight Zone episodes, they only got like 25 minutes, and they got to tell an entire horror story in 25 minutes. So they're always like super, cut and paste, kind of like they just lay it all out there. They're quick. The twist is right at the end or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, Honda kind of just kind of play it as straight as he can and just let it all ride on like the creepiness. You don't really see those mushroom people until the very end of the movie. It's all based on just the creepiness of like what is happening, what are these, why are there mushrooms? You know what I mean? It's like such a weird, and you think like when you spend, I've been a Godzilla fan my whole life. I've been reading G-Fans since I was in middle school. So that's when I first became aware of Matango, and like seeing the mushroom people, you're like, wow, that's stupid. That's dumb looking. But if you can take something that's just a mushroom person and turn it into like a legitimate horror movie, that's probably pretty hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. So you said a lot of really good stuff there. There's a lot to unpack, but like to your point about them playing it straight, like Honda was like noted, like on set of been like telling them, the actors, like I think it was Kubo in an interview, or maybe it was Yoshio Tsuchiya that said like he would get on set and be like, no, this is a real drama. This is a real movie. Take it seriously, and make his actors like, basically saying like, you're not running away from a giant monster movie. This is good. This is a real serious movie. Right. And the actors treated it as such. And you kind of see that, I think, in the film. And you're right. Like they don't show the mushroom people a lot. And you get like kind of, I don't know, like beyond halfway through, you get like the mushroom man, whatever. Yeah. But the creepiness, honestly, the creepiest thing about the movie is the freaking ship, the rundown, like the set work they did on that. Was gorgeous. Like it was like with the gross mushrooms and all the decaying parts. Like that to me was the most horrifying thing. Like you didn't need like any the creepy mushroom guy. That I thought that was beautiful. So like it added to that kind of aesthetic. And I mean, the mushroom men at the end, especially, they look kind of, I don't know, huggable. but it didn't matter. Because the whole build up into what they were, like it was more what they represented than them. Like, they were the culmination of these choices that people make, not like a monster that's there to rip people's heads off. Right. It doesn't matter that they look a little silly, because in that moment you're realizing, oh, they're going to turn into mushroom. Like they're like, that's when you kind of put it, like we already kind of know, but like, they don't know that eating these mushrooms, they don't like really know what's happening like until that end, when it's like, oh, this is literally a mushroom man. Yeah. And then it makes you think about all the other people who've been on the, you know what I mean? It makes you think like, oh, there could be hundreds of people who've had to go through this just over and over, are going through becoming mushroom people. Yeah. Well, and then it's just like, what are the mushroom people doing do they just capture them and turn them into mushroom people? Are they using them as fertilizer? I don't know. It's so weird. Yeah. Well, I mean, they had this scene that says like, this is like a ship's graveyard, when they're going out on the whatever, and they're trying to repair their old yacht and stuff. So like, there's a lot of people, but so that's an interesting thing. I wanted to talk about that, because you don't know the why, but then there is like cordyceps, like parasitic mushrooms, like these are real life things, like whatever, they infect the hosts, and the mushroom, the mycelium get in the host and stuff like they actually control the host to make it kind of do its bidding for whatever is best for the mushroom. That's a real thing in the world. It's like a mind control that like makes it where they'll spread out basically, or like populate an area or something. Yeah. So once again, like, is the entire is this giant island nothing but more than just basically a giant
It's just
casing
mushroom.
around a evil, maybe from, hey, we know Toho loves, nuclear radiation is growing, and maybe it just grew this giant cordyceps to this huge parasitic island. And these are just kind of the extension. So like it can sense, because it controls it can sense when a ship is wrecked on there, and it sends its little mushroom men, the half devolved ones, out to get them. That piece, like not knowing that, I think is actually a strength of the movie, because I like kind of guessing like what's the end game, and also they're just trying to. Regardless, it's just an organism trying to survive.
It's just an organism trying to exactly. That's what made me think of The Thing.
Yeah.
That the fact that they all get really like paranoid of each other.
Yeah.
Group of them, we're going to get the fuck out of here. And like the fact that they're at the ship is like, it's very much like when they go to Norwegian camp in The Thing and they find the people who died before them, that reminded me of the thought. You mentioned radiation. Now I read something about this today and I couldn't find a lot of info about it to back it up or anything, but I did read that this movie was almost banned in Japan because the mushroom men looked like radiation victims.
Yep.
That's true. You've read that. Okay.
That is true. That is I think that was in either the Honda biography as well, or maybe one of the August Ragoni books. But anyway, no, that's true that they were going to ban this because of like they looked too close to the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So that's
a whole other level. Like when I read that and it was like, oh yeah, the same, basically did the same thing with Godzilla, so it was like, fuck, man. It just like that hits you on just like a complete other level. It's the fucking movie about mushroom people. Yeah. Not one time when I was watching it I was like, oh, could this be about Hiroshima? Yeah, I
know. So I got a question for you as a horror, historian. So we're talking like early 60s, right? Like, so we got early 60s here with Matango. Like, what's going on in the world of like horror in the 60s? Because like parts of this feel like Universal monsters to me, like, and then parts of it feel like a little bit more, a little less ham-fisted and a little bit more like intellectual. But like parts of especially the music, I think maybe think like it was like a little bit more Universal. But I was curious, like, what's going on in this? Is that like Hitchcock? I know Hitchcock, Hollywood, but I know he's British, but whatever. Like, what other, like, what would be some contemporaries in that era to like compare it to? Because I don't know what was big. Like,
when did this come out? This came out in like
63.
Yeah.
So the same year's Atragon.
That's it. It's all Atragon. I'm not sure right off the top of my head what was coming out, because like most of the horror movies that you hear about today, it's all like, I definitely got the Universal feel from it. Yeah. Watching it, I was like, this feels like it could fit right in with the Universal monsters. It's that same, everything about the way it was made reminded me of those films. But you don't really start getting all like, I feel like in the 60s, it was probably more of the Italian horror films, which I've just recently started, like Suspiria. I can't remember if Suspiria is like early 70s or late 60s, but like, I feel like the Italians are who were making the like best horror movies back then. And then it like kind of jumps to like, late 70s when Halloween starts to show up, and like, that's what most people know. So like those early 60s is not really it's not my, my little, my bubble. So I'd be hard pressed to say like what inspired this, other than it reminded me of Psycho a little bit. Yeah. And it reminded me of like Frankenstein, so I'm sure it had something to do with that. I want to sit around and I wish I knew which horror movies Honda like was into, I mean? Like what horror movies inspired him to make this and Godzilla? You know?
Well, I mean, he obviously did some non-kaiju work and stuff, but I was just always curious, like, we have this going on in Japan. What would be like, whether we think how scary, how he treats horror, how was it being done in Hollywood at the time, or, in the mainstream in the US and the domestic market here? Like, I'm just curious, like, is this contemporary to like The Birds and the Hitchcock, or is it contemporary to more like, I don't like, I don't know the times, because you just, the kaiju stuff is hard because there wasn't an American counterpart to that, right? And I mean, there's Kong in the 30s, but then nothing like Godzilla. Like here,
we got like Reptilicus or something.
Yeah, that's Danish. That's Danish.
Right.
Yeah, and Gorgo's British.
What is it? 20,000. There's something that
Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Yeah,
is it Beast from 20,000 Fathoms?
Yeah, the Rhedosaurus. Yeah. No, but I just great story too. Ray Bradbury and Ray Harryhausen, put those two together. You get the two Rays together.
Dude,
you're just missing Ray's stance.
I'm looking it up here. Do you know what year for sure? It's just early 60s, right?
This movie, 63.
63. I pull it up, looking up at like 60s horror, and you see stuff like Rosemary's Baby, but all that stuff's kind of Psycho came out in 1960.
Okay. There you go.
And that made me that definitely like, yep. Matango pops. You just type in 60s horror and the third one is Matango. So
yeah, that's great.
I don't know what they were doing back then, man. Like you get a lot of, here we go. You got stuff like a lot of Vincent Price stuff was happening in the 60s. Gotcha. So you got like The Pit and the Pendulum, The Raven, Tales of Terror, a lot of that stuff. Stuff that I haven't seen. I don't know, dude. I think though, did he do more horror films?
So he did the three, like people, they say it's like not a trilogy as in like the stories connect, but like his three pieces of, I don't know the right way to describe it, but they call them the Deformed Human series. So it's the Human Vapor, Matango, and is it H-Man?
I've heard, okay. Yeah. I think
so.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. And so he did those three. So he did those, and they all were focused on kind of like more body horror.
Yeah, body horror stuff.
Yeah. So Matango obviously I think is the one that gets the most play, and the one that probably is, even though it's not a well-known film of those three, it's probably, and I've never seen The Human Vapor.
I haven't seen either one of those, but it also sounds like maybe he was reading some H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah,
because I don't know if there's an H.P. Lovecraft story called The Color Out of Space, and it was recently made into a film with Nicolas Cage, and despite having Nicolas Cage in it, I know he kind of splits people down the middle. Yeah. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
But have you seen Creepshow?
I know of it. I know of the the mixed media type of style. Yeah.
Creepshow, came out in the 80s. Stephen King. It's like some of it's Stephen King. It's just like it's like multiple stories. One of the stories is about this redneck guy played by Stephen King, and a meteor hits in his yard. And the story from it's most well known from Creepshow, but it is an adaptation of The Color Out of Space.
Okay.
And what happens is a meteor hits, and weird plant life starts growing, and in the actual story, it kind of drives people crazy. There's like weird shit happening. Specifically in Creepshow, it has like a moss growing on it, and Stephen King's character touches the moss and it grows on everything, and it grows all over him, and he can't, it makes his throat itchy. So he drinks water, which just makes it grow more. And he ends up like killing himself in his bathtub because he's a giant moss creature. Yeah. And I was like, oh, Creepshow is Matango. It's 100% the same thing. And it makes me, Lovecraft was early stuff. So it makes me wonder if there's a little bit of that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Thrown in the references somewhere. That early like body horror type stuff is heavily like H.P. Lovecraft. So
I mean, it's crazy to think how dark this film is. I mean, it fits right in between with Honda. The year before he did King Kong versus Godzilla, and the year after he does Mothra versus Godzilla, and you put this right in the middle. I mean, like
that's so funny to me.
I don't, but like
that's such a weird.
I mean, that's why Honda's awesome, is because he can do that. But so I was just curious. Like I said, like I know that to me, like this is. It's I don't know a lot about horror, but I know this is like less horror-y, gory and stuff like that, and more kind of playing on those dark kind of psychological, make you think psychological tones. And I was just curious if that was also kind of the trend in the wider mainstream market, or if it was more, I mean, slasher type stuff. I know it was before probably slasher stuff.
Yeah, no, slasher stuff didn't really start coming into play until earlier. So, I mean, there was early slasher stuff, but like popular 70s and 80s. But, as I was saying, a lot of the Italian stuff came out back then. And I've recently seen a lot of the Italian stuff thanks to Joe Bob Briggs, because he shows a lot of it. And it's stuff that you'd like have never heard of. A lot of like Dario Argento and stuff like that. And all of those movies are way more like they're psychological. You know what I mean? They're the kind of movies that they'll be 2 hours long. There'll be really slow builds. There'll be like one random horrifying, gory scene in the middle of a slow movie. So it's just like, you're just like, oh, yeah. And then it's like, it makes you think more of that's going to come, but it never does. And like, so I can kind of see like some of the ones I've seen, I could definitely see fitting in a little more with this, because they are not like, just out to get you monsters and slashers and, claws on hands kind of shit. Yeah. I feel like all that stuff came later.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. I gotcha. So what were some of like as a first time viewing of this and somebody that appreciates and understands horror and also kaiju and also Toho films, like what were some like your favorite like parts of the film? Like whether it was the setting or the actors or the whatever, like what were some of the stuff that you thought really worked?
The setting's great. I feel like the setting works really well. It made me think that this movie should be remade. I was like, I could see this being made now and being like fucking horrifying. You know what I mean? The settings are great. Go ahead.
Did you see, what's the director that did, he did Sex Lies and Videotapes and Aaron Brockovich, Steven Soderbergh. He was going to remake this. And he said, because it was like, I know the quote was something like, this movie used to scare the hell out of him when he was younger, and he wanted to do it. He couldn't get the rights from Toho. Like they couldn't make it happen, but he was going to do an updated horror version of this. I think this was probably in the mid 2000s, like the 2000 aughts. But it's weird. It's weird to me that he would have to get the rights from Toho when it already exists as a story before. Like, why can't he just get the rights to the story and just say it's readapt to the story? It doesn't have to be exactly like Matango, but dude, right. I was sucked into it pretty hard and had a hard time picking out. I tried to, when it was done, I tried to say to myself, like, what did I not like about this movie? And the only thing that I feel like can improve is just maybe some of the acting and dialogue. But it's like, I watched the American version, so I was watching a dubbed version, and it's hard to pick out. It's a little hard to pick out like, oh, well, this didn't work, but maybe it works when you're watching it in the right language and reading it. It's hard watching. The only part I can say is like, well, maybe the acting could be better, but it's like, first of all, it's made in the 60s. So we're in 2021, and it's unfair to say that the acting is not good if you're watching something dubbed, because it just never, it's never the same. It's never the same. So the things that the fucking, what's her name from, I can't remember her real name, from the main girl who's also Kumi Mizuno, who played Mamie.
Dude, Kumi, when she's just like smiling and eating the mushroom at the end, that's the best part in the movie. Like that's the creepiest stuff in the movie, is her just being like, eat it. That's the scariest thing. Like people's minds being taken over and not having any control of what they're doing. Or if they do have control, they're like enjoying it. Like that's always, I feel like that's the scariest thing. Whenever your characters are at first are like scared and terrified, and they're like, don't do that. Yeah. And then 10 minutes later, not only are they doing that thing, but they're like, this is good.
Yeah. Makes sense. No, I see. I do think you should watch when you can watch the Japanese version, because I am kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, because I think the acting is great. Now, I would say that the actors are hamstrung by one thing, and I think you see this more in the dub, is that, and I would say this is, I kind of two not nitpicks, but like things that I could see like might make it far from being a perfect movie is all of the characters on the boat, they're a little one-dimensional, right? And it's like and it kind of made that way. Like it's the dickhead boss that thinks his money can buy everything. It's the writer, and it's very kind of cliche. You had the yin and yang of the virgin-esque student and the whorish lounge singer actress, whatever that Mamie is. So you have a little bit of that's a little predictable and stuff, but and especially in the Japanese version, I think Akira Kubo, who plays Mirai, who plays the professor, is brilliant in it. And I think Kumi Mizuno as Mamie is awesome. I mean, she is like sultry and just like, I mean, Miss Namakawa, he's beautiful in it. And I actually think, everybody knows I'm a big Hiroshi Koizumi fan, and he plays so many professors, which he played like a professor with almost the same name in back-to-back movies and in Ghidorah and Monster Zero, but in Mothra versus Godzilla and Ghidorah 3-Headed Monster. The craziness is like, I think he's great as Sakuda, the captain, the yacht skipper. I think he's great in it as kind of that. Of all of them, he's like the most representing the old guard. He's the one that like he kills himself instead of like, going back and eating the mushrooms and stuff. And like, it's I think the acting is actually a strong suit, and it's just cool seeing all of these Toho legends in this. I mean, you are missing Takarada and Akihirada, and after that, I mean, it's everybody's in.
That's it. Yeah,
I mean, it really is.
When I started watching it, I started taking notes down. I was like, let me take notes during this. And I took 2 notes. Mm-hmm. And that was like, after that, I was just kind of sucked into the movie.
Which is great.
I was like, I don't want to take it. But my first note is about that great monologue that opens the movie. There's like a really great monologue. But then how weird it is that monologue hard cuts to this like happy music. Yeah. And it's like, all right. But then the only other note I took was classic Toho miniature work on the boat. It's like they're in a hot tub or something. And I've always loved the charm of like those waves are 100 feet tall, because it's just a little boat on the water. But that was it. Past that, I was like, oh, I'm in. Well, this movie's good. So
the only other thing I had was like, I felt that sometimes, and once again, nitpicky, I think they did such a good job of this feeling of despair. Cause this is a very like, you're like, nothing good is happening here. Like it is, you are screwed, people. You cannot get out of this. At some point I'm like, do they even need the mushroom people? Like, I mean, at this point, is this just like the story could just be about this group that ends up, killing themselves or whatever.
They could just die of starvation, which is an issue in the story. When you're reading the story, you think they're just going to die from starvation for the first part.
So I think you almost, at some point, you almost have 2 movies, and then like the mushroom people come in. It's almost like can somewhat feel like a new movie. But going back, you talk about the monologue. So I do want to spin on this because I think this is the most fascinating thing about this film is, so you have the monologue, and of course you bookend it with the end scene where he's also in the psychiatric ward. And in the English version, the one that we watched for this viewing, he says that he turns around, you see the disfigured face, and basically that he admits that he couldn't hold off any longer. And so you have this overarching question of, would he have been better off being quote unquote happy, living in whatever, but disfigured, but with all of his friends and, his girlfriend student that's there, but also disfigured eating these mushrooms, or going back to his normal society being disfigured and whatever. So that's a question we ask ourselves. But he ate the mushroom. He gave in to temptation. That's the American version, the English. In the Japanese one, same thing. He's still disfigured, but he says, it didn't matter that I didn't eat the mushroom. Being just basically hinting at that he was just so close to this toxic environment, this toxic society, that it turned him into that. So it was more of a subtle nod at like the world and westernized Japan, or whatever, however you want to take the allegory, is turning so bad. Even if you make the right choices, you're still screwed, because he didn't eat the mushroom and still do it. So it's like these 2 different slight variations on this theme. And it's like, what? Whoa! Like what? I don't know. Like which? I don't know which one is more powerful.
Yeah.
But it's just he just says I did eat it and I didn't eat it, and it changes the
Right.
total kind of
That's
the
such
question you
a-
ask yourselves.
Dude, the I didn't eat it and still wound up like this is such a, that is like a thing.
Yeah.
It would take some research, but we could probably do an entire episode of this show where we talk about things that the American versions were like, nope.
Yep.
That
Yep.
makes us look bad. We're taking
Yep.
it out.
Yeah. I think the decision, and there's not been a definitive answer. This is just speculation, so we can speculate. The thinking was that like the American studios didn't feel that the audience that would be watching Matango would get that there needed to be a clear cut like cause and effect, right?
I can understand people watching it and being like, well, why is he a mushroom person? Didn't fucking eat it, you know?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I can see that like being annoying. Stupid.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you think about it, this didn't even get a theatrical release in the US. This was Honda's first sci-fi show that just went straight to TV. so like,
wow.
yeah. So, I mean, it didn't have a lot of viewing. So the few that were going to watch it would have been just really confused if they did the more kind of subtle, makes you think type. They go to a second level of, of the theme it's trying to convey. But I just think that's fascinating that for the most part, the films feel really similar. And there could be little things that are different, but for the most part, I think it's the same experience. And it's just that little change in dialogue, that change in the script at the very end.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Jay,
yeah.
You should write a book about the changes and the cultural reasons for changing and taking out. That seems like a very interesting book that I can't write, but
no, I do not want to write that.
I'll do the cover.
Okay.
I'll illustrate the cover if you write it.
I love it, man. No, I don't want to. I love watching movies for fun and getting to talk about them for fun.
I get it.
When I have to start taking like line by line notes and comparison and stuff and rewatching a scene 75 times so it loses its charm and allure.
Yeah.
Then I've been watching too many movies. And then it'll force me to have to watch Megaguirus again at some point, and I'm just not going to do that.
Dude, we'll skip. We'll just say that
movie doesn't count.
The American version isn't. We just got rid of the American version.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're. So anyway, so yeah, I just like I said, that was one of my favorite things about the film is just that kind of end scene, and it doesn't work unless the opening is so strong, and they do a really good job.
They do a great job. That opening monologue is. I like monologues. I think it's fun. I have a friend who is an English and theater teacher, and when I was in high school, I watched a lot of plays. I went to all the play competitions, and I used to be I say used to be because I don't consume it as much anymore, but I've always really loved Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. And anytime I'm watching anything and somebody does a long fucking monologue, I always love it because it's like we live in a world where people's attention spans are not, like, did you watch Midnight Mass, that show that's on Netflix?
I did not. Now? No,
you've heard, right?
I have heard of it. Yes.
So Midnight Mass is out, and it's just full of monologues, and it's like splitting people right down the middle because Midnight Mass is maybe the best thing that's ever been put on Netflix. It's amazing. It's really well written, acted, and directed. But people are like, why is there so much talking? And I'm like,
who are the car chases?
so I like, and that's not something I expect out of a Toho movie. Yeah. Straight up as a monologue. You know? So I was happy with it, and I thought it was pretty well done. So
yeah. And Kubo's great, and he's the right guy to do it because he's so charming and endearing, and he's just. I mean, he works as like the goofy, nerdy little brother guy or whatever, even though he's played obviously other roles. But in this one, I mean, he's perfect as like an assistant professor. And I don't know, I just, like I said, I think that's great. And it adds to the overall like positive viewing experience that you get with Matango.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, this was a good one.
Yeah. Well, the
I
other
like this
funny
movie.
thing, did you catch that? I got two little things. The laugh, the mushroom people laugh is Balton from Ultraman. They reused it for Ultraman.
Is it
Alien Balton? Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't notice that, but now that you said that,
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the other thing that I thought was hilarious is I love how Toho when they like something, they stick with it. And I love that, like, where do we think we floated off to after the storm? Japan's that way. Oh, I think we're probably in the Bonin Islands. The Bonin Islands, also known here as the Bonin Islands, but in Japan as Ogasawara. So you have and the Odo Island where Godzilla first lands. The fictional is supposed to be in the Bonin Islands. You have Tokyo SOS, the Bonin Islands. Like it's just always
always their answer.
Yeah.
It's the only
always,
island system they know, so they're just like, hey, that's where he's
everything happens there. And I thought, like, okay, well, Matango's there, the Mushroom Island as well. And also the other thing is, I would love to see this crossover with a kaiju movie, a Toho kaiju movie. Not like saying you have to grow the mushroom people giant, but like they could be part of an island that maybe has a kaiju or something else,
or a kaiju creature that kind of brings on that. Yeah, maybe whatever the kaiju is.
Biollante Island that you had.
Exactly. It's causing that to happen to the humans around it. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think you could do something really cool with that. And I mean, even like a B plot where they're on an island and they're just, that's one hurdle they have to overcome. But I don't know. I think it's cool. There's a lot of stuff there. And then there are a hell of a lot of really cool Safubi items of these guys running around.
Dude, there's some good ones out there. Dude, I would say, sort of watching this, thinking about maybe contemporary, I would tell you maybe if or anybody listening, if they want to watch something that I feel like has the feel of Matango, but is like a contemporary film, I would watch that segment from Creepshow. I mean, came out in the 80s, and it's silly. It's very silly, but it's got that overall feel. Yeah. I would watch The Color Out of Space, and I would watch the movie Annihilation. Have you seen Annihilation?
I haven't. I know you guys have spoke so highly of that film, but I've never seen it.
I mean, it's different, it's a, the plot of that is basically the same as Color Out of Space. It's, something has landed. There's an alien life form that is changing the landscape, turning creatures into mutants, basically. And it's very horrifying in the same way that Matango is. And it's also just one of the best movies. It's one of the best sci-fi movies to come out in a long time. But I feel like those three and The Thing, even The Thing, like those four movies are kind of like, I thought of all of them while watching this, and I would encourage anybody to watch Matango, but maybe watch those too.
Yeah. Hey, a movie's good when you get sucked in and you don't take notes. And it makes you think of other movies that you like.
I almost panicked because I was like, "Oh, am I going to watch? I need to watch this again before we record," because I was just watching it, But
no, that's good. I love that. I mean, at the end of the day, as people probably have noticed, we don't have to take a lot of notes in our discussions. Like, it just we're not more of that other than a couple little backstory things. But at the end of the day, like, I think you want a real emotional response to a movie, and and if you start pausing it and then writing down notes about every scene, I'm sorry, like it's not as authentic as it's just watching it. And like, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah. I'll have to say overall, it's a movie that I kind of thought was going to be just a silly,
like Space Amoeba.
I thought it was going to be silly and fun and just like kind of an experiment to see what Ishiro Honda's horror movie was, and then I was like, oh, this is a piece of work. This is a real movie. This is a movie. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great way to put it. I'm the same way. The first time I watched it, I was like, I kind of don't know what I'm going to expect here, but like I kind of like was thinking it was going to be hey, this is just something we had to throw out in between Godzilla movies. And it's almost like cheesy, tinfoil on hat type sci-fi movie. And then it turns out to be like a real story and like makes you think and very different than what we'll see in the kind of the golden era and the kaiju side. where it is a little more fun, but it's
Yeah.
dark and depressing. And I think Honda does a wonderful job, and give Eiji Tsuburaya credit for some of the work he did with the makeup and stuff. I think on the Mushroom Man is good.
Mhm.
And whoever did all the sets was great. And like I said,
Yeah.
I love the cast, and overall, like I really like this film, and I really want
It's a good
everybody
movie.
to see it.
Yeah.
And I think there might be a lot of YHS listeners that maybe aren't into kaiju, but that love like all the horror stuff that you guys talk about.
Right.
And when they're done watching Leprechaun 4 in space or whatever, they can come back and watch Matango. I think there could be some crossover with the YHS general population.
I think so too. Yeah. Hopefully if they know what's good for them.
If they know what it's good for, hey, they should be watching. Hey, if they know about it now, that's because they're watching YHS and Monster Island. So they're good in my book.
And listen, it's free. It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
You can watch it on Amazon Prime. The book that it's based on, The Voice in the Night, you can listen to for free on YouTube. It's 30 minutes long, and it's a cool little. It's different. It's basically the same, but it's a little different, and it's I like the thing that I like about the book, not to get back onto the book, is that your main character is a mushroom man, but he still has his like humanity. His human brain is intact, and he's on a boat. You don't see him, and he's just telling the story to some other fishermen. He's like, "Hey, I'm just looking for food," and they're like, "Oh," like when he leaves, the moonlight shines on him, and they're like, "Oh, that's a mushroom boat." So it's definitely different. And we could probably have a whole other conversation if we wanted to about what is worse. Would you rather be a mushroom person with your brain taken over so you don't know that you're in a fucked up situation? Or would you rather get turned into a mushroom person and just still be a human and be like, well, I'm a fucking mushroom person now?
There's a lot you could talk about. And that's what I said, when movies are good, they make you have those conversations and those thoughts, which is awesome. And then it made me think, like, I know you're busy battling Stephen King on Patreon, but at one point, are we going to get a Jacob Walsh versus William H. Hodgson or whatever his name is?
Yeah, I'll do a Matango episode. Hey, dude, it's only 30 minutes. I'll just read the whole thing.
You can do that.
I'll just make people listen to Matango.
And then this could be the supplemental piece. Then go and listen to the movie review.
I tell Craig all the time, like, hey, man, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing these Stephen King Patreon episodes, and he'll be like, why?
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're really fun, and I really appreciate, like, I have fun doing them. But do YHS listeners tune in to hear me read passages out of a Stephen King book? I don't think that's what they want. And he was like, listen, they like us. They want to hear what we did. It doesn't matter. Just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just do it. So I always have this thing where I appreciate it. I always have this thing where I feel weird about it. And I'm like, am I just doing this for myself? Yeah, I don't know. Do people like this? I don't. This is not the place to be having this conversation. Probably.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, I always say, for those that somebody could be listening to this that didn't know that they weren't aware that you did do these Stephen King readings and discussions on Patreon.
Well, we should. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. We for anybody that doesn't know and who is just listening to this to hear us talk about, you know, Godzilla and kaiju
and mushrooms,
there is, if you want to search, Yes Have Some podcast. I've been doing YHS for almost over 5 years, almost
Crazy.
6 years at this point. And, we talk about movies, horror, a lot of Ghostbuster stuff. And we do have a Patreon, and the Patreon we do watch alongs. We have special episodes once a month that we let you vote on, and we have a Discord chat. And then also I read a lot of Stephen King. So anytime I'm finished with a Stephen King book, I'll do a review. Sometimes I'll just read a Stephen King book that I like, or a passage, and we'll throw it up on the Patreon, and it's really fun. But YHS kind of covers everything at this point. So
pretty much. I mean, you guys are like a food critic and a sports writer away from truly being just an all media entity. But no, and honestly, like YHS, the Prime, YHS Prime,
YHS Prime
is so awesome. But I have to say, like, as a fan, like, you can't discount the sensation, the hit sensation, Toy Anxiety. Holy cow. That is appointment viewing to a T every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. It's you, it's Abby, it's Craig, and it's that guy that has an Academy Award, apparently, Mr. Ryan Dole up there in Canada. I know, crazy. But you guys are awesome. Actually, I had a kaiju related discussion with Ryan this week offline about and he was going to talk about it on Toy Anxiety, so I'm going to save it for that, or him to save it for that. But he has some really cool. He had a really cool kaiju find, and something that I was not aware of. At least the specific one, really badass. I think he might be my favorite Toy Anxiety host now. It was that cool of a find.
Whoa!
He's going to bring it, I think, hopefully, and show you guys. But you got the chemistry on that show is amazing, and I always talk about that. But I also want to say, like, the toy community can be a little overbearing and wacky and a lot of negativity, and you guys do a really good job of not only being positive but also kind of tongue-in-cheek making fun of that element.
You have to be, man.
Comment.
You have to be. You know, something that we're going to talk about on the next episode a little bit is that we visited NECA over the weekend. We went to NECA headquarters, and one of the things that we talked to Randy about was just like how the toy community is like a little weird, a little crazy, and you gotta have a sense of humor, or you end up making these weird videos where you call out other toy collectors, and we're adults, so we're adults, and we buy things like this. So
yes, I have a
you gotta be self-aware.
No, but that show is great, and then I'm really excited. I don't know if you guys have released, and you don't have to share it here. Maybe I can go to group therapy and figure it out. But when Abby and Kat Hansen and Ryan Dole are coming back with The Bad Bitches, what a good show that is. And I'm excited. Somebody that probably likes the live action Star Wars more than the animated series, even though, hey, the Clone Wars is awesome. I haven't caught up on the Bad Batch yet, but their show,
I haven't seen any of it,
is amazing. I mean, they're so good, and it's only on YouTube, but it's a show that I think, once again, the common theme here is chemistry, and it just feels, as a listener or a viewer, it just feels like you're in the room with you guys chatting about it. And I hope they feel the same way about us on Monster Island. I really do. that they feel like we could just hang out and over a few, waters or beer or whatever your choice is, and just chat kaiju. But that's one thing that you guys have really fostered, these really cool shows, and hopefully everybody here that listens to us will also venture over and listen to those programs, because they are awesome.
Thank you, Jay. Please do everything Jay just said, and leave us a review. Leave us a review while you're at it. Hit up, the iTunes store. Leave us a review or messages. You can send me a message. My ego will thank you if you send me a message and say, "Hey, man, I like the show," or if you send me a message and say, "Hey, you know what? I like when you read Stephen King stuff." So that would be cool. I'd appreciate that.
You know what, Jake? That just made me think of something. We do need some more reviews. We've got some great reviews. So if you go to iTunes and you leave a review, you know what? I think, it may be not next episode, but the next one, I think we should pick a review, and whichever one we think is best. If that person's still listening, we'll obviously call them out on there, and they'll reach out to me.
Sure.
I will send them a 1991, I think it's 1991, Bandai, the Gamera collection, Gamera. And the reason I picked that one is because if you guys listen to our first episode, that was the first ever Bandai vinyl I ever owned. It got me into collecting Godzilla stuff, and I will send you one courtesy of Toku Toy Town. I will send shipping and everything. Just leave us a review. We'll look over the next couple of weeks, and then we will pick one from iTunes, and hopefully you'll get in touch with us, and we will give you a Gamera collection, Bandai vinyl. I think it's 90, actually, not 91. I don't remember. Anyway, we'll send that one to you. In fact, I have it up here, but anyway, we'll send it to you. So I'll mention it in the next episode as well. We'll give you guys a couple of weeks, but leave us those 5-star reviews.
Please.
Hey, a bad review is not going to win. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that.
No,
don't not eligible.
No. We need a good one. Good review. Only 5-star reviews are eligible for the Toku Toy Town.
I love it. I think that's fair.
Jay, you got anything else?
No, thank you guys for listening. I really do appreciate it. Jake appreciates it. The Mushroom people appreciate it. Ishiro Honda, if he was still alive, would appreciate it. And go out and watch this movie.
Yeah, get a pizza with extra mushrooms. Bye.